When my family announced they were throwing me a graduation party, I felt a rush of excitement I could hardly contain. It wasn't often, actually, it had never happened, that they'd gone out of their way to celebrate me. When I arrived, the house looked transformed. Blue and silver streamers hung from the ceiling, a large "Congratulations, Ryan" banner stretched proudly across the wall, and tables were neatly set with trays of real food instead of the usual takeout boxes. Family, neighbors, and even some of my dad's work colleagues were there, chatting and smiling. My mom hugged me tightly, her voice warm as she said, "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. This is such a big accomplishment." My dad clapped me on the back and grinned. "First college grad in the family. Look at you." For a moment, I actually believed them. For once, maybe I wasn't the background character in my own family. Years of being the responsible one, who didn't need attention, seemed to fade away in that instant. Jake, my brother, sat on the couch, absorbed in his phone, but even that couldn't dampen my mood. The party felt like it was finally about me. There was a toast, people congratulated me, asked about my future. I was floating on a high I'd never experienced before. Then my mom brought out the cake. It was large, elegant, clearly custom-made. She set it down in front of me with a bright smile, my dad nodding for me to take a look. Still riding the wave of joy, I leaned forward, grinning. The words stopped me cold. "Congratulations, loser." At first, I thought maybe my eyes were playing tricks. But then my dad's chuckle broke the moment, turning into full-blown laughter. My mom giggled, and Jake doubled over, practically wheezing. "Relax, it's just a joke," my dad said, still smiling. Jake smirked. "Come on, Ryan, that's hilarious." "Hilarious? Sure." I looked around the room. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. No one defended me. The sharp, hollow feeling in my chest wasn't quite anger. It was clarity. I picked up my drink and raised it slowly. The chatter faded into silence. "To my family," I said evenly, "for always being exactly who I thought you were." I glanced at the decorations, then the cake. All this effort, I'll never forget it. My mom looked uneasy, my dad's smile flickered. "And here's to the future," I added, lifting my glass slightly higher. "Because I've finally learned exactly how to treat you the way you've always treated me." The tension was thick enough to cut. I downed my drink in one go, set the glass on the table, and grabbed my bag. At the door, I looked back once. Jake's smirk was fading, my dad shifting in his seat. "Don't be dramatic," my dad muttered. "It's just a..." I smirked, turned, and walked out without another word. "Oh, and one more thing," I said. "But you'll find out soon enough." Then I stepped out the door. No shouting, no dramatic exit, no tears, just silence. A heavy, suffocating kind of silence that clung to me as I left. I didn't have to look back to know confusion was already brewing behind me. They were probably trying to convince themselves I was just overreacting, that I'd cool off, that I'd eventually come back. They didn't know what was coming. But they would. I was never the son they truly wanted. That was Jake. Ever since we were kids, it was clear, Jake could do no wrong. He was the golden child, the favorite, the one who made them light up. They defended him, protected him, showered him with praise. No matter how many mistakes he made, he always got another chance, and another, and another. Me. I was tolerated. I used to wonder why. What did he have that I didn't? I worked hard, got good grades, stayed out of trouble, did everything they claimed to value. But somehow, I was still the one who barely registered in their eyes. It started small. I was 6 when I won a school spelling bee. I came home beaming, clutching my little certificate, waiting for them to be proud. That same day, Jake had drawn some messy scribbles. My mom gushed over it, put it on the fridge, and called him her little artist. My dad ruffled his hair, said he had talent. I held out my certificate, hopeful. My dad glanced at it without much interest. "Spelling," he said flatly. "That's not a real skill." My mom smiled, but it was a distracted, almost dismissive smile. "That's nice, honey. But don't brag." I wasn't bragging. I just wanted them to see me. By the time I was 10, I'd stopped trying. If Jake got in trouble at school, the teacher was being unfair. If he broke something, it was an accident. If he got bad grades, not everyone's a nerd like Ryan. my mom would say. Meanwhile, if I so much as rolled my eyes, I was disrespectful. If I asked for something, I was ungrateful. When Jake got accepted into college, they threw him a huge party. When I got in, my dad barely looked up from his phone. I told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need their approval, but a small part of me still hoped that maybe if I kept my head down, worked hard, and proved myself, one day they'd be proud. When college came for me, I knew better than to ask for help. I got a scholarship, took out loans, and worked part-time to make ends meet. Jake barely scraped through high school, but when he got into a mediocre college, my parents were thrilled. We'll help you with whatever you need, my mom promised him. And they did, paid his tuition, bought him a car, sent him money every month. Jake spent his first year partying, skipping classes, barely passing. By the second year, he flunked out completely. And still, they didn't get angry. They didn't blame him. They actually felt sorry for him. It was too much pressure, my mom said. We probably pushed him too hard. Pushed him? They'd handed him everything. And then came the breaking point, the thing that finally snapped something inside me. They started mapping out his second chance. Found him another college, pulled strings to get him in, promised to keep supporting him financially. They'd even make sure he had an apartment near campus. Then they told me I'd be co-signing his lease. No request, just a statement. You've got good credit, my dad said. It won't cost you anything. Just a signature. I should have said no. I should have refused on the spot. But I'd been trained for so long to do what they expected that, yeah, fine. Slipped out before I could even think about it. They barely reacted. It was just assumed I'd fall in line. Like always. Jake didn't thank me. He didn't even acknowledge what I had done for him. That's when it finally clicked. This would never end. No matter how much I gave, no matter what I achieved, it would never be enough for them. I could have walked on the moon, and my dad would have just shrugged. My mom might have forced a polite smile. And Jake? He'd probably make some half-joking comment about me trying too hard. It wasn't that they didn't see me, it was that they didn't care. So when I walked into that graduation party and saw the decorations, the banner, my mom grinning ear to ear, my dad shaking my hand, I let myself hope for just a moment. Maybe this time it was different. Maybe this time they were actually proud of me. But then came the cake, the laughter, and the truth hit me like a punch. I would never have their respect. And for the first time, I was fine with that, because after that night, they would never get the opportunity to use me again. I left the house that night, but not before making one last call. The one thing they never expected I would do. The thing that would, in exactly 3 weeks, leave them scrambling and desperate. 3 weeks later, the call started. I didn't answer, not entirely out of spite, though maybe a little. Mostly, I just didn't care anymore. I had spent years dropping everything for them, reshaping my life to earn approval they never intended to give. So when my phone filled up with missed calls, when my mom's voicemails kept coming, when Jake's texts shifted from "dude WTF" to "you need to fix this," I let them all sit unread. I knew exactly what they wanted. At first, Mom tried to sound casual. "Sweetheart, something strange is going on with Jake's apartment. Call me." Then confusion crept in. "Ryan, did you forget something with the lease? The landlord says you're not listed as Jake's co-signer anymore." Then Dad called, furious. "What the hell did you do? You gave your word. Fix this." And finally, Jake, no pretense, no politeness. "You screwed me over. Fix it now." That one made me smile. Because 3 weeks earlier, right after leaving the party, I had gone to my car, pulled out my phone and called the landlord. I officially removed myself as Jake's co-signer. No arguments, no warnings, just a clean final decision. Now Jake's lease was invalid, and they were just starting to feel the consequences. They assumed it was already locked in. I'd said yes before, hadn't I? I'd always gone along. They still thought I was that person. But the second I saw that cake, I decided I wasn't. For once, they could deal with the fallout themselves. And I have to admit, it felt incredible. On day 22, I finally answered one of Dad's calls. I let it ring twice before picking up, leaning back and waiting for the inevitable outburst. It didn't take long. "What the hell did you do?" he barked. His voice grew louder as he went on. You made a promise. You gave your word. Your brother's lease is collapsing. You need to fix this now. I didn't respond. I just let him vent. Eventually, when he realized I wasn't arguing, his voice dropped into that cold, guilt-laden tone he always used to get me to fold. You need to be a man and take responsibility. That almost made me laugh. Responsibility? Where was that lecture when Jake failed out of school? When he blew through their money? When he skated by his entire life without ever facing real consequences? I took a slow breath and finally spoke. I don't think I will. The line went silent. I could practically feel the disbelief from the other end. What? I don't think I will. I repeated, calm and steady. Then, like a dam breaking, the insults came. You selfish little. I hung up before he finished. He called back immediately. I ignored it. Jake tried. Ignored him too. Then Mom's name appeared and I answered, because I already knew how she would play it. She started soft. Sweetheart, we need to talk. Do we? I replied flatly. She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. I know you're upset. We all know that party didn't go the way you wanted. I let out a short laugh. Is that what we're calling it? A party? She didn't respond to the sarcasm. I almost laughed at that. His future? When had they ever cared about mine? I dragged myself through school with no help from them. Worked until I was worn down. Taken on loans just to get by. And where were they? Standing behind Jake, cheering him on. Now they wanted me to sacrifice for him too. I kept my tone even. I'm sure Jake will figure something out. She bristled. You know he can't get approved without you. That sounds like his problem, Ryan. She tried again, her voice sharper. This is what family does. No, I said, letting my patience slip. This is what I did for years. And what did I get in return? A cake that read, "Congratulations, loser." Silence. Real silence. I let it linger. Now you're realizing what a mistake that was, I said quietly. Her breath caught. It was just a joke. I smiled. So is this. And I hung up. I stared at my phone for a while, half expecting them to call back. But they didn't, because they knew I was serious, and they knew they'd finally pushed me too far. What they didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Soon they'd be calling again. Begging. Because I hadn't just refused to co-sign. I had pulled out of everything. Without me, their golden boy was about to lose everything. A few days passed in silence, which didn't surprise me. My dad was probably fuming about how ungrateful I was. My mom was likely crying about me tearing the family apart. And Jake was sulking because for the first time, he wasn't getting what he wanted. But I knew it wasn't over. They still hadn't realized the full extent of what I'd done. And on Friday evening, as I sat with a beer enjoying some peace, my phone rang. Jake. I smirked and let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. By the fifth call, I answered, my voice relaxed. Thought we were done here. What the hell did you do? His voice was loud and frantic. I took a slow sip. You'll have to be more specific. The money, Ryan. The tuition money. It's gone. There it was. I smiled. They thought this was only about a signature. No, I had been quietly helping them for years. Covering bills, making up late payments, lending money I never saw again. And when they started planning Jake's second shot at college, they just assumed I'd contribute. My dad had said, "You're doing well now, you should help your family." Like it was nothing. I hadn't agreed, but they decided for me. So I did the one thing they never expected. I cut them off entirely. No deposit, no payments, no quiet safety net. Now Jake was drowning. He'd already lost his apartment, and now his second chance at school was slipping away. Ryan, you don't get it, Jake said, panicked. The school called. Payment didn't go through. I can't cover it. I'm going to lose my spot. I hummed. Damn. That sucks. Silence. Fix it, he demanded. That made me laugh out loud. Even now, his entitlement was bottomless. You're serious? You said you'd help, he snapped. No, I said evenly. You assumed I would. That's different. He stammered. Mom and Dad said that I cut you off. Yeah, I bet they did. But here's the thing. I don't care what they said. There was a pause. His tone softened. Ryan, you know this is my last shot, right? There it was, desperation. Yeah, I said. I know. He swallowed. So, I repeated slowly, you'll figure something out. That was the same line my dad had thrown at me after draining my college savings. The same thing they'd said every time I needed help and got none. Now they could live it themselves. You're just doing this to punish me, Jake spat. No. I'm doing this because I finally learned how to treat you the way you've always treated me. I let that sink in before hanging up. The next day, my mom called, already crying. Ryan, we need to talk. No, we don't. Jake's going to lose his spot, she sobbed. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I cut in. She hesitated. You're punishing us for a stupid joke. No, Mom. I'm finally treating you the way you treated me. She gasped, like my words had wounded her. That's when I realized she wasn't just calling for Jake. She was calling for herself. Without my money, they were struggling too. All the little ways I'd quietly supported them, now gone. You have to forgive us, she pleaded. We're family. I gave a dry laugh. Funny. You only say that when you need something. Her voice trembled. Ryan, please. Now I could hear the fear. It wasn't just Jake's education falling apart. It was their whole way of life. Because this time, I wasn't coming back. I don't owe you anything anymore, I said, firm and final. And I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to them. They kept calling for months, guilt trips, fake apologies, desperate requests for one more favor. But I'd made my choice. For once, I chose me. Jake never returned to school. The deposit deadline passed. My parents couldn't cover it in time. They had already burned every option to keep him afloat. Eventually, I heard he moved back in with them. No degree. No job. No plan. It felt poetic. For years, I'd been the one they ignored, the one they laughed at. Now I was the one who walked away. And they were the ones left behind.